My boyfriend lost a game of truth or dare. The dare was to kiss someone of the opposite sex. Just as we were about to kiss, Emma suddenly pushed me aside and kissed him instead. You're being ridiculous. Today is your sister-in-law's birthday, Daniel said, playfully pinching her cheek with a loving smile. Everyone turned to look at me, who had been pushed onto the sofa. The whole room went silent. No one dared to make a sound. Emma laughed lightly. Oh, come on, don't be mad. Olivia, Daniel never even sees me as a woman, Daniel added, trying to reassure me. It's just a game. Don't take it so seriously. Everyone expected me to explode and cause a scene, but instead, I calmly took off my engagement ring and gently slid it onto Emma's finger. Let me know when you set the wedding date. The room fell into complete silence. Even Emma looked stunned. Lauren scoffed. It's just a game. Do you really have to take it this far? Daniel's voice turned cold. She knows. I smiled faintly. Just making it more fun for all of you, aren't I? Daniel's expression darkened visibly. Emma tugged at his sleeve, pouting. All right, Daniel, it's my fault. I didn't think Olivia would be so sensitive. She then took her ring off and tossed it back at me. Here, don't be mad. Take your ring back. I didn't mean anything by it. The ring hit my face with a crisp sound before falling to the floor. Everyone stared at me in shock, but I simply picked it up. If you don't want it, then it's useless. And with that, I threw it into the trash. Olivia, are you crazy? That's your engagement ring with Daniel. Quick, find it. Where did it go? The group scrambled to search through the trash can. But it was already overflowing with watermelon rinds, banana peels, and even someone's vomit. It was impossible to find a small ring in that mess. Even Emma started to panic, clutching Daniel's hand with red-rimmed eyes. Daniel, how did things turn out like this? Why is Olivia reacting so strongly? Did I really go too far? But we've never had boundaries since we were kids. The next second, Daniel pulled her behind him, shielding her. Stop looking. Everyone froze, hands still hovering over the trash can as they turned to look at him. His gaze was cold enough to cut through me. If you can't handle the game, don't play it now. Because of you, no one is happy. Are you satisfied? A tightness formed in my chest. Emma was the one who kissed my boyfriend. I tolerated them, and yet, somehow, I ended up being the one ruining the mood. If this had been before, I would have cried, screamed, and accused Emma of crossing the line. But now, I didn't have the energy for that. Instead, I turned around, grabbed my bag, and said, well, I'm leaving. Have fun. As I shut the door behind me, the muffled noise from the private room continued. Someone hesitantly spoke up. Today is Olivia's birthday, isn't it? Isn't it a bit harsh to let her leave like that? Daniel's voice was impatient. Don't bother with her. She's always been too sensitive about time. She needs to learn to grow up. He then casually added, oh, right. Emma was recently invited to be a lecturer. Since the cake is already here, why don't we let Emma blow out the candles instead? The atmosphere quickly warmed up again. The birthday wishes that had been meant for me turned into congratulations for Emma's bright future. Cold. I wiped it with my hand and realized I had started crying at some point. But I wasn't sad. I didn't feel anything at all. Growing up in a faculty housing complex, I had always admired Daniel, the academic prodigy, but I was never as outgoing as others. I never had the right words to say, so I could never quite fit in. Every time I sat by the window and watched Daniel and Emma chase each other around, laughing, I'd work hard, study relentlessly. Whenever I saw our names next to each other on the ranking list, I'd feel overjoyed. But I was never as bright and lively as Emma. There was always a polite, distant gap between us. Then we got into the same university. Emma went to an average school and got herself a boyfriend. I finally gathered the courage to confess my feelings to Daniel. Fortune favored me. He said yes. From that moment on, every decision. I always centered my life around him. When he decided to stay at the university to teach, I gave up my chance to study abroad. My advisor tried countless times to persuade me, listing examples of my senior classmates who had returned home earning six-figure salaries, some even becoming Chongjung scholars and professors before hitting 30. But I just blushed and told him that as long as I could have a stable life with Daniel, that was enough. No, I had given everything I had, and all I ever wanted was him. But he never once considered me. I let out a long breath into the cold night. Aaron made a call to my former PhD advisor. "Professor, the project you mentioned before. Do you still need people there?" There was a brief pause, as if he was surprised. "Sweetheart, have you finally thought it through?" he replied. "Of course we need you. You're the perfect fit for this project. Even your junior keeps begging me to let her join, but I wouldn't." "Agree to it. When can you come? I'll pick you up," I chuckled. "In about half a month. I need to take care of some things here first." Although I wasn't leaving immediately, I spent the next few days carefully reviewing the project. Details. The time difference between Ireland and here was significant. By the time I finished my call, the sky over there had already darkened, while here it was nearly dawn. Exhausted, I ran a bath, letting the warm water soak into my bones. My entire body relaxed as fatigue slowly took over me. The soft hum of music in the background lulled me into a deep sleep. The next time I opened my eyes, I was startled awake by the sound of a door opening. "Olivia," Daniel's voice echoed through the apartment, moving from room to room, growing increasingly impatient. Then, as the bathroom door swung open, his tone sharpened. His gaze locked onto me, carrying a hint of reproach. I stared at him, confused. What was he angry about this time? Was he upset that I hadn't waited for him in the living room like before? Ready to argue with him about Emma, I said flatly, "You're back." "Sorry, I fell asleep and didn't hear you." I supported myself against the bathtub, turning my head slightly. "Could you leave? I'd like some privacy," I said politely but with distance. He frowned, rubbing the bridge of his nose. Looking exhausted, I was late because Emma drank too much. Her ex-boyfriend kept harassing her. I couldn't just leave her alone, you understand, right? Safety comes first. He paused, waiting for my response. I let out a soft chuckle. "You think I'm mad?" I laughed. "Why would I be? You and Emma grew up together. It's only natural for you to walk her home. Besides, she lives alone. It's the gentlemanly thing to do." For a moment, Daniel looked at me as if he couldn't believe what he was hearing. I waited for him to say something, but when he didn't, I simply got up and reached for a towel. We had lived together so long, there wasn't anything he hadn't seen before. But for the first time, I felt self-conscious wrapping the towel. Around myself, I turned to leave, but he suddenly grabbed my wrist. "Olivia, can you just say what's on your mind?" I paused. What is there to say? His grip tightened slightly. "You used to have so much to say," I thought for a moment. He was right. Every time we argued about Emma in the past, I was the one who wouldn't stop talking, who wouldn't let it go. But I had come to realize that when love fills your heart, it drives you crazy. It makes you lose control. Well, there was nothing left. So, naturally, there was nothing to say. I gently pushed his hand away. "It's past 2 a.m. I have experiments to run tomorrow." His hand froze. "Mary," I yawned. "Don't stay up too late," he said softly. Without another word, I climbed into bed and shut my eyes. For a while, there was no sound from outside. Then suddenly, a loud slam of the door jolted me from near sleep. Daniel had stormed out. I knew why he was angry. He'd finally given me an opening, a chance to reconcile, and I had refused to take it. But I had no regrets. That night I slept soundly. The next morning, I yawned as I ordered breakfast for delivery. When I opened the door, I saw a small birthday cake sitting on the table. Daniel sat behind it, smiling. "Happy belated birthday, Olivia." I froze. The payment page for my food order was still open on my phone. "I know you weren't happy about what happened yesterday," he continued. "That Ringwee really couldn't find it." His long, slender fingers slid his phone across the table. "Toward me, honestly, that style never suited you anyway. Pick a new one." Then, as if to smooth things over, he added, "Emma is just childish. Don't take her too seriously. To us, a kiss might mean something, but she's always been carefree." Suddenly interrupted. You even ordered a cake just for me? Thank you. Yet, the unexpected gratitude caught him off guard. He stared at me, stunned. Double quotes, Olivia. I bent down slightly, reading the message written on the cake. It wished me to always be 18. What a sweet message, I murmured. Thanks, I really like it, he frowned. Olivia, I was already reaching. For the plates and utensils? What? His eyes lowered slightly. Nothing. There was a cheerful note in my voice. This bakery makes the best cream cakes. I can never get a reservation. You really put in the effort? He hummed in response, as if lost in thought. Daniel, you should have the biggest slice. Don't waste it. I placed the largest piece in front of him. Then I picked up a smaller one and took a bite. Is this a new flavor? It's pretty good, I said. He furrowed his brows. Olivia, can you at least look at what I'm showing you? I glanced down. His phone screen displayed a high-end engagement ring website, the kind where you could only order one ring in a lifetime. My hand trembled slightly. Had he shown me this even a day earlier, I would have been ecstatic. But now, I simply took. Another bite of cake? No need, I said. Those things are just overpriced gimmicks. Too much trouble. His gaze darkened with disbelief. Olivia, he said. I smiled. Really, I don't care about those things anymore. Don't waste your money. The cake is more than enough. With that, I placed my empty plate on the table. I have a meeting today. I need to head out early. Make sure to put the dishes in the dishwasher, I added. Then turned to go into the bedroom to change. Suddenly a loud bang, the sound of a chair being pushed back hard, made me turn around. Daniel picked up his phone, his expression unreadable. Whatever. I'll just give it to Emma. She likes this kind of thing, he said, then slammed the door and left. The slice of cake he left untouched remained sitting there for the next few days. I didn't see him at school. A few days later, I overheard some people talking. This is beautiful. The craftsmanship is the most exquisite I've ever seen. Who got this for you, Emma? Someone teased, if you find a man willing to buy you a ring like this, you should just marry him, another joked. When I arrived at the office, a group of people was gathered around Emma, chatting excitedly. I glanced over and immediately noticed the ring on her pale, slender finger. It was the classic design from a luxury brand known for its exclusivity. Someone once said that this style symbolized eternal love and wavering until death. It's just a gift from a friend. Nothing serious, Emma said with a bright smile, though her gaze flickered toward Daniel nearby. The moment she saw me, she quickly covered her mouth in fake surprise. Oh no, Professor Dew, when did you get here? She waved her hand, flashing. The ring. This isn't from Daniel. Don't get the wrong idea, she added. From the moment I stepped inside, Daniel had already glanced at me once. Then, as if deliberately ignoring me, he raised his hand ring, and Alan continued chatting and laughing with everyone. The incident from my birthday was still fresh in everyone's minds. The room fell silent, all eyes turning toward me. Even Daniel leaned in closer. I gently approached Emma, lifting her hand to examine the ring. It's beautiful. Your boyfriend has great taste. Emma froze for a moment. Daniel, I said. Walking closer, he bought it for you? Daniel, who had been drinking water, suddenly paused. The room was silent for a beat before someone burst into laughter. Well, if even Professor Dew approves, then Emma, your boyfriend must have put a lot of thought into it. Someone tugged at their friend's sleeve, trying to quiet them, but the friend whispered back, What's there to be afraid of? If the ring was from Daniel, Olivia would have flipped out by now. Clearly, she's already moved on, as if waking. From a dream, the group quickly shifted gears. Emma, when did you start dating? You've kept it a secret all this time, someone asked. The ring's already on your finger. When's the wedding? Let me see again. The design is stunning. Amid all the compliments, Emma smirked slightly and looked at me. Honestly, I don't even know how he picked it out. I just mentioned that I liked it, and he bought it for me. Who knew he had such good taste? Before she could finish, I abruptly reached out and pulled the ring off her finger. Emma's words faltered. She turned to Daniel instinctively. Daniel stood up, holding a stack of lecture notes for his undergraduate class. His voice was cool. Is this really something worth flaunting around the office? Emma covered her mouth again, her eyes instantly welling up. Daniel. But he ignored her completely. He shot me an unreadable look before turning away. Professor Dew's taste could use some improvement, he said, then without another word, he stormed out of the room. I had no idea what he was so upset about. I had complimented the ring. Why was he acting like I had just insulted him? After finishing my lecture, I got a message from Daniel. Dinner tonight. It seemed like he had realized something. That was fine. I had things to say to him too. Sure. I'll come after I finish my experiment. I sped up my work, trying to make sure I finished in time for our 7 p.m. meeting. But when I was finally ready to leave, I realized something was wrong. The lab door wouldn't open. Normally, the lab doors weren't locked until after 11 p.m., but it was barely 7. Why was it already locked? Worse, my phone was in my locker outside the lab. I had no way to contact anyone. I considered climbing out the window, but the lab was on the 8th floor. Just as panic started to creep in, I heard footsteps outside. I banged on the door with all my strength. Desperate to get someone's attention, the lab had excellent soundproofing, and it took everything I had to finally make enough noise for someone to hear me. When I saw who it was, my heart sank. It was my junior colleague. It was the one who had been dying to take my spot on the Ireland project, but had been rejected in my favor. She had been holding a grudge ever since. I mouthed, "Help me." Through the glass, she stared at me for a moment, then shook her head and walked away. A chill ran through my body. Did Daniel know I was here? I had to get out fast. I needed something to pry the door open. But the equipment in the lab was worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. I couldn't risk damaging any of it. In the end, I could only sit against the door in despair. Suddenly I heard the click of the lock turning. Startled, I scrambled to my feet. Standing in the doorway was Sophie Green, my junior colleague. She leaned against the doorframe, twirling a key between her fingers. Professor Lin, who's in charge of the keys. Left early today, she said casually. I had to file a request and fill out some paperwork before they let me borrow one. Took a bit of time. Hope you weren't too scared. I stared at her in shock. Professor Lin, I managed to say. That meant Emma, Sophie scoffed. Who else? I hesitated for a moment before saying thank you. She waved a dismissive hand. If this is about you apologizing for getting picked over me for the Ireland project, don't bother. Then she turned and walked away, her voice drifting behind her. One day I'll surpass you. When I finally got out, it was already 7:30 p.m. I rushed to the restaurant as fast as I could. In my hurry, I tripped on the stairs and scraped my knee badly. A waiter helped me to my seat, but when I arrived at the reserved table, I found a couple already sitting there. Excuse me, ma'am. Are you sure you have the right table? This one's been reserved for quite a while now. The waiter politely reminded me. I froze. My phone buzzed with a notification. When I opened it, I saw a post from Emma. Thanks to my dear brother for this grand birthday surprise. Not mad anymore. The attached picture showed a massive 5-tier cake with Emma standing front and center, surrounded by a dozen friends popping confetti. The person beside her had their face covered with a cat sticker. But I recognized the silhouette immediately. I glanced at my calendar. Today was Emma's birthday. Would you like to make a reservation now? The waiter asked. My knee throbbed with pain. I shook my head. No thanks. Can you tell me where the nearest hospital is? I never called Daniel. By the time I got my wound cleaned, treated, and bandaged, it was already late at night. When I finally returned home, it was past midnight. As I opened the door, I nearly jumped in fright. Someone was sitting silently in the dark living room. I quickly turned on the light, still shaken. Double quotes. Daniel, why are you sitting here in the dark? I asked. He looked up at me. His eyes were slightly red, veins visible from exhaustion. Olivia, he said softly. It's almost 3 a.m. I nodded. Yeah, I worked late, I replied. He hesitated, then spoke in a careful tone. I didn't make it to our dinner. I know, I replied softly. It's fine. I set my bag down. You scolded her, right? So, of course, you had to make it up to her. Her birthday was the perfect excuse. Suddenly, his hand grabbed my wrist. He was still sitting there, looking up. At me, the party is still going on. I left early. I blinked in confusion. Why? His grip tightened slightly. I was waiting for you to call me. I froze for a moment, then pulled my hand away. He didn't let go easily. I had to forcefully break free. It's fine, I said. I trust you too. I changed my shoes and took off my coat, feeling his gaze on me the whole time. His Adam's apple bobbed as he swallowed. You're not mad? My voice was soft but firm. No, I'm not, he replied. I wasn't sure if I imagined it, but his voice seemed to tremble slightly. Daniel, let's talk tomorrow, okay? I gave him a small smile, exhaustion creeping into my face. We can talk as much as you want then. With that, I turned and headed into the bedroom. I didn't hear him slam the door this time, but he never came inside either. The next morning when I woke up, he was already gone. There was no sign of him at the office either. Apparently he had gone straight to the lab for his experiments that afternoon. I picked up my phone and started typing a message. Emma isn't bothering you today, right? Let's have dinner tonight. I have something to talk to you about. Right. Hit send. The office door burst open. Olivia, where did you hide my pen? I was yanked by my collar so forcefully I nearly fell off my chair. Colleagues rushed over. Professor, calm down, someone said. But Emma's eyes were already filled with frustration. I didn't mean to do that, she pleaded. But that pen was my grandfather's. You have to give it back. It's really important to me. She was trembling. Professor, if you just took it to look at, that's fine. But can you at least tell me where it is? It's my grandfather's pen. I froze. Emma's grandfather had been a renowned physicist, someone who made significant contributions to the country when he passed away. All he left her was that fountain pen, hoping she'd follow in his footsteps. I had always respected the old professor. How could I have stolen something that belonged to him? I explained, I left it in the lab yesterday and forgot to take it with me, she continued. At that time, you were the only one there. Suddenly, Emma dropped to her knees in front of me, sobbing uncontrollably. I swear I won't talk to Daniel ever again. Just please give me back my grandfather's pen. All eyes in the office were now on me. Everyone knew how many times I had argued with Daniel because of Emma. A hesitant voice broke the silence. Professor, say something, someone urged. I looked up. Daniel was standing in the doorway. Olivia, just give it back, he said. If you like it, I'll buy you a new one. He held out his phone. Pick whatever you want. You know the password. Just give me the pen, I said after a moment, then let out a quiet laugh. What do you mean by that? I asked. His gaze shifted away, and his Adam's apple bobbed slightly as he swallowed. That pen is really important to her. Not blaming you. I know you've been feeling wrong lately. It's understandable if you made a mistake, he said softly. I smiled. But it was filled with helplessness. Do you really not know what kind of person I am? He didn't answer. Emma was still sobbing, sneaking glances at me between her tears. Why are you crying? I asked sharply. You locked her in the lab, and now you're blaming her for taking your pen. Couldn't you have just put it in your own locker instead of leaving it in the lab? You can't even keep track of your own things, huh? The unexpected reprimand stopped Emma's tears instantly. I turned around. Sophie Green was standing in the doorway, holding an iced coffee. The office fell into stunned silence. Professor Green, what do you mean by that? Someone asked cautiously. She smirked and tossed a USB drive onto the table. Security footage recovery. Why don't you all take a look at how Professor Lin waited until Professor Du entered the lab before locking the door? Emma snatched up the USB drive and gripped it tightly. Sophie, this isn't necessary, Emma said. But Sophie gave a mocking smile, then snatched the USB drive back and plugged it into the computer. The screen only displayed lab data and lecture. Notes, no video at all? Emma's eyes widened in shock. You tricked me, she said. Sophie scoffed. If you hadn't done anything, what were you so afraid of? She asked. Emma turned desperately to Daniel. Daniel. But for the first time he said nothing. Instead of defending her, Daniel frowned. Emma's face turned pale. She covered her mouth, pushed past him, and ran out. Only then did I finally meet Daniel's gaze. "Olivia," I said gently, "you don't have to explain. I understand. You and Emma grew up together. It's hard to believe someone you trust could frame me." He looked stunned. "I don't blame you," I added softly. "Dinner tonight?" I asked Professor Chen. "Do you already have plans with Professor Lai?" His reply was immediate. "No." Raised an eyebrow, slightly surprised. Then I smiled. "All right, I'll be home by 7. Daniel's gaze locked onto mine. "Serious, I don't mind," he said. "Good," I replied casually. "I'll buy the groceries." He didn't object. That evening, as soon as I opened the door, a hand grabbed my arm. "Oh, Olivia, you've grown so much. You're so beautiful now," an older woman gushed. "Come here, dear, come here." I froze in place, stunned, as Daniel's parents suddenly appeared in front of me. I looked at Daniel in confusion, silently questioning him. He walked over and gently pulled me into his arms. "It's time to tell them," he said, as if dropping a bombshell. "They should know about our engagement sooner or later," he added. The moment those words left his lips, his parents' faces lit up with excitement. "When's the wedding?" his mother asked eagerly. "Olivia, do you want a big celebration or a cozy family gathering? We can even have 2 ceremonies if you'd like," she said cheerfully. Their joy was overwhelming. Drowning out whatever I had planned to say, I turned to look at him. He was smiling gently, pulling out a small red velvet ring box. Inside was a new engagement ring, still the exact style I loved, but from a different brand. He had custom-ordered another just for me. Instinctively, I moved my hands behind my back. His parents hesitated, glancing between us. Their earlier joy seemed to waver. "Slightly white tutu, didn't talk about this beforehand." The happiness in their eyes faltered, replaced by a hint of sadness. I had no feelings left for Daniel. But our families had been close for decades. Our parents had lived in the same community for years. Daniel's parents had always treated me like their own daughter. After we started dating, they spoiled me endlessly, showering me with gifts. The first suitcase I ever owned was a gift from them, still tucked away in my closet. I quickly forced a smile. "No, it's not that. I just haven't washed my hands yet. I finished an experiment," I explained. "Oh, that's nothing to worry about," his mother beamed, immediately grabbing my hand. Daniel's smile deepened as he gently took my hand from his mother's grasp and slid the ring onto my finger. 2 large red envelopes were pressed into my palm. I smiled. "Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Chen." His parents exchanged a look before shaking their heads. "Still calling us that? Isn't it time to change how you address us?" A shy smile crept onto my face. "I'll say, Mom, Dad," I said softly. The moment those words left my lips, Daniel seemed to let out a quiet sigh of relief. His father, on the other hand, was ecstatic. "I need to call Luos right away. I bet they're worried their precious daughter is getting stolen by my son," he said, excited. "Stop being so dramatic." His mother scolded playfully, but her eyes sparkled with joy. The next day, Daniel and I accompanied his parents too. The airport, once their plane took off, I finally spoke. "Daniel, I'm leaving too." He nodded. "Back to school. I'll drive you." I took a step back, avoiding his hand. "No, I'm leaving for Ireland," I said. His hand froze. "Madame, there's a project there that needs me," he explained quickly. For a moment, he didn't react. "When did you decide this?" "Why didn't I know?" I asked, feeling hurt. "On my birthday?" The realization hit him like a truck. His fists clenched tightly. His voice shook slightly. "Was it after you left the party?" I nodded softly. His knuckles trembled before he took a deep breath, trying to suppress whatever emotions were storming inside him. "How long will you be gone?" 2 or 3 years? He lowered his head. 2 or 3 years, he murmured. "That's not too long. I can wait for you," I said, "if you're interested." "In Ireland? I cut him off. My point is, let's break up. A gust of wind swept through, blowing my hair slightly. It blurred the expression in his eyes, though we stood less than a meter apart. I could hear the shaky rhythm of his breathing, but we're already engaged. I reminded him softly. I reached into my bag, pulled out a key, and took his hand, placing it in his palm. This is the house key. When you go back, check under the shoe cabinet. I put all the red envelopes your parents gave me there. As for the engagement ring, I didn't accept it not because I resented him, but because the part of our relationship that made us a couple was already over. All the things I left at home, take whatever you want. If you don't want them, throw them away. It's up to you. I won't be coming back, I added softly. Goodbye, Daniel. I hope you become a professor soon. I patted the back of his hand and then turned away. I didn't go home for the last 3 days before leaving. Instead, I stayed in a hotel. Nearly finished all my work at the university, tying up loose ends on my final trip to submit my paperwork. Well, I was there. I overheard something unexpected. Daniel had also applied for the Ireland research program. Logically, with his resources, he was already well on his way to becoming a professor. He didn't need to go abroad to boost his credentials. And in a few years, when he returned, there might not even be a position waiting for him. What's the point of this? I wondered silently. A stack of documents was handed over my shoulder to the administrator in charge. I turned and saw Sophie Green, giving me a polite smile. Looking forward to working with me in the future, the young woman administrator's face lit up at the sight of her. Professor Green, are you going abroad with Professor Chen? That's so lucky, she exclaimed. I was about to respond before Sophie could, but I interrupted. I don't think I'll be teaching with Professor Chen, I said evenly. The two of us are headed in different directions. The plan is, in Ireland, we each focus on our own research fields. That's all. The administrator hesitated. Professor, do you and Professor Chen? I smiled. We broke up, I said simply. Silence fell. I turned to Daniel still. I wish you success in Ireland, I said softly. Then I was about to leave when his hand suddenly clamped around my wrist, even though he was trying to hide it. I could hear the slight tremor in his voice. You really don't care at all anymore, do you? He asked softly. I gently pried his fingers off. Enough, Daniel. We're at school, I said calmly. His voice suddenly rose. Where's that energy you used to have? You were always trying to control me. I froze. In the past, I had been obsessed with keeping tabs on him. If he came home an hour late, I'd interrogate him about his whereabouts. He had snapped at me more than once. I'm your boyfriend, not your property, he'd said. Why do you have to monitor everything I do? Do you think Emma and I are too close? We grew up together. If I really wanted to be with her, would you even matter? I sighed and faced him directly. Didn't you hate it when I meddled in your life? Now that I don't, what else do you want? For a moment, his eyes shimmered, like he was on the verge of tears just then. A figure burst into the room. Daniel, you can't go to Ireland, Emma cried, her eyes red as she clung to his arm. You can't leave. What about me? You promised. You'd never leave me alone. The administrator was stunned. Daniel had always cared about his image, yet now he stood in the middle of the office, his eyes red and staring at me as if nothing else mattered. Olivia, he said hoarsely, do you want me to go or not? I almost laughed. This was the same man who had always said, I make my own decisions. Stop trying to control me. And now he wanted me to decide for him. I chuckled softly. That's for Professor Chen to decide. If you want to go, go. Not, don't. Whatever you choose, just don't regret it. With that, I turned to leave. I had only taken a few steps when he suddenly shouted, Olivia, wait! I kept walking away without looking back. Behind me, I heard his irritated voice. Let go. Can you stop being so annoying? Emma's sobs followed me down the hall until the day I left the country. Daniel never contacted me again, but for someone who rarely updated his social media. He suddenly started posting daily, A morning post-graduation photo of us with the caption, "I miss the old days." An afternoon post a close-up of my hand wearing the engagement ring captioned back, "Then." And finally, a simple status update, "I miss you, Olivia." Only visible to me. I scrolled past it and left a comment on my best friend's vacation photos instead. That was the night before I left. I received a call, "Professor, do you need to come to the hospital right away? Professor CH had an accident in the lab. There was an explosion, and he refuses treatment. He keeps saying he won't see anyone but you." Froze. Daniel had always been careful about safety. Once a student had misplaced 2 bottles of chemicals, and he had called them out in the department's group chat. How could he be the one to make a mistake now? Where was his mind wandering? By the time I arrived at the hospital, his eyes were unfocused, blindly reaching out into the air. "Olivia, I need to see her." "Don't touch me," he said, voice trembling. Emma was crying beside his bed, her voice shaky. "Daniel, Olivia's not here. Let me take care of you, okay? Your eyes have been severely damaged by the bright flash. You need treatment immediately. Stop searching for her." "Please," Emma begged. As she reached out to touch him, he shoved her hand away. "Leave. Just go." His voice was hoarse, but firm. "Olivia doesn't like seeing you around me. She misunderstand." "You can't be here," Emma cried, tears streaming down her face as she covered her mouth. Trembling all over, I stood quietly at the doorway and called his name softly. In that moment, everything he was doing froze. He tried to get out of bed but nearly collapsed. Emma reached out to steady him, but he pushed her aside. He stumbled forward blindly, reaching for me. His bandaged eyes searched desperately, trying to find me, when his fingertips brushed my face. Damp patches appeared on the gauze covering his eyes. "It's you," he whispered, voice cracking. "You came to see me," said before I could react. He pulled me into a tight embrace. Trembling all over, "Don't leave, Olivia, please. I was wrong. Don't abandon me," he begged. I didn't move. "The doctor said you can't cry." He clenched his teeth, forcing himself to hold back. He looked like a child desperately trying to obey, clutching my hand tightly. "I have a flight in an hour," I said softly. "You wanted to see me, so here I am. Now, focus on getting better," I added gently. The dampness on his bandages deepened, and his entire body trembled as if fighting to hold something back. Nurses and doctors rushed in. "What's happening? He can't cry? Someone get him away." From the patient, a nurse urged. I was pushed aside, and the distance between us grew, but his voice only grew louder. "No, don't let her go. You can't let her go," he yelled. I silently met Emma's gaze. She moved to block me, but I simply stepped around her as she reached out again. She was shoved aside. Her head hit the corner of a flower pot, and blood quickly pooled around her. Didn't look back. Step by step, I walked toward the exit. The sky was a brilliant shade of blue, time for me to start my new journey.